The impact that id Software's seminal blaster Doom had on video games is still being felt today, completely shifting the goalposts on what was possible in the video game medium, and of course making lots of sweet money. In an attempt to hang on to the coattails of this rampant success, many companies attempted to make so-called Doom clones, as the phrase first-person shooter was not in use at this point in time. There were clear imitators of the Doom mould, but some did try to push the boundaries and see what was possible with this newly found genre. Rebellion's 1994 Jaguar effort, Alien vs Predator for example, switched up bombastic violence for a slow and heavily atmospheric pace, offering 3 distinct campaigns and playing styles, and is certainly worth a look at despite its derision its home hardware often receives. But this new 3D success was not welcome in all corners. A fairly large group of developers feared the new power that Doom had unlocked on its platform of choice, the IBM-compatible PC. This was a massive dent in the armour of Commodore's Amiga machine, whose architecture was simply not capable of producing such graphical detail at such a brisk pace, and quite frankly was not engineered to do so. Companies whose flag flew under the Commodore banner were worried. One such developer was Team 17. Well known nowadays for the Worms series, in the mid-1990s, Team 17 were one of the Amiga's most prolific developers, producing the likes of Super Frog, the Body Blows fighting games, and of course the Alien Breed series. Team 17 reasoned that they could produce a game on the Amiga to rival Doom, a game for Amiga owners to get behind and prove the power of their system. And from this line of thinking came 1995's Alien Breed 3D for the Amiga 1200, A4000 and CD32. Now, this isn't strictly speaking part of the review, but I thought I'd like to mention it anyway. Alien Breed 3D has this hilariously outdated copy protection system requiring you to input a 3-digit code from the manual in order to circumvent the copy protection piracy, which of course in this day and age is stupidly easy to do. All you have to do is go onto the internet and download a PDF, and suddenly all the codes are there for you to put in, and suddenly the CD32 is happy to load your shitty CD from Asda instead in the place of a proper copy from Team 17. Upon loading to the menu, players will notice an upsettingly long password option at the bottom of the screen, which is even worse for those using a stock CD32 controller, as well as several other options for game customization. Selecting a new game will load up a menu of green text that serves as your opening plot. Pressing any button will bring you to the game itself. An oversized HUD helps fill the screen, in the middle of which is a postcard-sized playing window. The size of this cannot be adjusted in the in-game options menu, though you can change levels of shading to help make it a bit easier on the eye. The game itself looks respectable for 1995 Amiga standards, and seeing any fully 3D game on Amiga hardware is certainly a sight to behold. The game plays as you would expect any so-called Doom clone to play, giving the player the simple task of collecting keys and the wholesale slaughter of anything that moves, with keycards involved somewhere along the line for good measure. Having 16 levels to run and gun through means that Alien Breed 3D has got some good variety and a decent length, with the game's challenge being more than up to supporting this. And the controls for the CD32 version actually make good use of the CD32 keypad. L cycles through your weapons, R is held to strafe in conjunction with the D-pad, green shoots, yellow serves as the action button, and blue serves as the little used crouch button, with red being mapped for running. It would have been preferable for strafing to be mapped to the shoulder buttons, but this is nevertheless a functional design. The most glaring thing that frustrates me with this game is Team 17's lack of faithfulness to previous Alien Breed titles, in an attempt to try and jump on the Doom bandwagon. Most clearly this is seen in the enemy design, all of whom seem to have been at least vaguely reminiscent of those seen in id's shooter, especially this very blatant Beholder ripoff. Admittedly, the creatures from previous Alien Breed titles were certainly inspired by the creations of H.R. Geiger for the Aliens series, but at least they were cool looking and less goofy and out of place than the cartoonish characters used here. There was enough for Team 17 to use what they had to create an excellent and atmospheric shooter, just like Rebellion did with Alien vs Predator, but they instead merely attempted to cash in on Doom. But, in saying that, at least the level design is actually similar to the early Alien Breed games, by which I mean they used a lot of grey. But thankfully the textures look pretty okay and are reasonably varied, and you won't find yourself getting too lost in levels either. Unless of course it's one of those levels in which that's sort of the point, in which case you probably will. This is except the early levels, however. I don't know if it's because I've played them so much or not, but they do seem to be terribly bland and linear compared to everything else. It's not an electric start to the game, but players should persevere, as the rewards of more exciting or even innovative levels further into the game provide something a little more exciting to look at, and indeed blow things up in. The music is a mixed bag as well, with some decent enough tunes, but as far as I can tell there are only 5 or 6 tracks in the game, plus the menu music, and I can't figure out why 500 megabytes plus of space the disc has weren't filled with more songs, but there you go. But I've dodged around the elephant in the room for long enough now. It's time to talk about Alien Breed 3D's most glaring problem: the performance. Now, keen-eyed viewers will have already noticed the small viewing window Alien Breed 3D gives you in order to see its world, but as I'm sure you've probably also noticed, it looks at points like it's running in Microsoft's PowerPoint. Which is an enormous problem for a first-person shooter, seeing as how it's a genre that bases itself on testing players' reflexes against oncoming hordes. Whilst there are options in-game that allow you to reduce the detail on the screen in order to ease this frame rate woe, on the CD32 version at least, it barely seems to make a difference. I've noticed situations the game has put me in, such as dropping down into a horde of enemies only to be killed because I couldn't dodge easily, and the frame rate was causing my aiming to become akin to that of Michael J. Fox. It's frustrating because, in Doom itself, the game Alien Breed 3D aspired to be so much. Situations like these are some of the most exciting and take genuine skill to get out of. Even genre-staple circle strafing is rendered virtually useless due to the frame rate. It's not always awful, but it's problem enough at times that it shouldn't be that way. I understand that on expanded A1200s and A4000s that this isn't really a problem with a larger bank of RAM to draw from and the faster 68K processors and the like, but this isn't those machines. It's a stock CD32 with 1 meg of RAM and the frame rate is poor. But then, having made that really scathing observation, I'm going to completely flip it on its head and say it's not actually that bad. Sure, at first it's incredibly annoying, and there's certainly a lot of times where it becomes a problem, but overcoming this and playing around it actually just feels just as, if not more rewarding than a similar situation in Doom. It's weird, I know, but it feels almost poetic to see yourself swirling in slow motion, shotgun roaring as enemies blow into little chunks, or still more claw towards you as you dance the dance of death, and it's weirdly satisfying. That largely confusing mixed bag of opinion pretty much sums up how I feel about Alien Breed 3D. It's not the CD32's best game, or even the series' best, but for some reason it's the one I've played the most. I just keep coming back to it. Every time I get my CD32 out, Alien Breed 3D is almost certainly one of the first games to get popped back in the drive for a quick blast, at the very least. And you should probably do this too. It's a very definition of Doom clone, but if nothing else, I can tell you that it's available for about 20p and 5 minutes of your time. And if you own a CD32, well, look, you probably know about this already and have it, but if you are considering getting a machine, well, there are better games to get. Don't avoid this one. I never think people should avoid a game, but I don't know, try Chaos Engine or something. But anyway, thanks for watching.